strength, and honor.
Lights, camera, action.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Jon, and today I have a very special guest with me. It is none other than Emily.
Wow, thank you for that introduction.
Yeah, no problem. Anyway, so it's us. We're here. We're glad you're here with us. We are going to be talking about Gladiator today, and who knows, we might even have a special guest on here.
And it's not me.
Yes, it is not Emily. You just have to stay tuned, but we might actually have a little special guest extraordinaire. So keep listening for that. But without further ado, let's just jump right into Gladiator. Oh, wait, we have to talk about the giveaway.
Yes.
I can't believe I almost didn't talk about it. So last week, we did Casablanca, but we talked about our giveaway, and the giveaway went live on our Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, everything. The response was smaller than we expected.
Quite a bit.
Actually, quite a bit, but that's okay. We're not doing this for money, at least not right now. It'd be cool if we started making money. We're not doing it for anything like that. It's just a fun thing for us to do and for us to do together, and we wanted to share that with people. But it did work. Our goal was to expand our audience, and it actually did work despite not a lot of people correctly entering the giveaway. So I was looking at our analytics, and we did reach over 300 people with our post on Facebook. And after I went back, looked through our Spotify analytics, our following, like the number of accounts that follow our podcast increased. And we also now have listeners over in the United Kingdom. So I have no clue how that happened, how we reached them, but welcome. We're glad you're here with us. Good. Hello.
Oh, no.
But anyways, we're glad you guys are here with us. And if you didn't hear from us on the giveaway, that unfortunately means you did not win. We have already reached out to our winners. But stay tuned. Here in the near future, we are going to be doing more giveaways. So if you wanted a shirt, you didn't get one, there might be another chance to do something like that. But now, without further ado, I think we can jump in, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. You want to take it away?
Yep. So like Jon said, we are covering Gladiator this week. It was released in May 5th of 2000. So I would have been almost 1 month old.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, I mean, I would have been a little over 2 years old at the time.
The director was Ridley Scott. It stars Russell Crowe, Joaquin Phoenix, and Connie Nielsen. It was distributed by DreamWorks and Universal Pictures. Runtime of 2 hours and 35 minutes. It is rated R, and the budget was $103 million. Box office total was $503.2 million.
Wow. I did see that when this movie was released, it came in second for like box office total for the summer. Like it was the second biggest movie. The only movie that was bigger than it was Mission Impossible 2, I think. Or it might have been the other way around. Gladiator might have beat it out. I don't remember, but I just remember them being neck and neck. So anyways, what's next?
So I'll run through some casting details before I get into my fun facts. So first, for the role of Maximus, which was the lead role in Gladiator, that was played by Russell Crowe, but they actually had first offered the role to Mel Gibson, but he ended up declining it because he felt that he was too old to play Maximus. Then they also had considered Antonio Banderas and Tom Cruise to play Maximus as well.
Interesting. I think all of them would have done a good job. I don't know who would have been the best choice out of those three, though. It's hard to see anybody but Russell Crowe because he does such a phenomenal job in this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
But I don't think Mel was too old. He was only 43 at the time. I think he could have done it.
How old was Russell Crowe at the time?
I don't know. We can do a quick Google search and find out.
Okay. While John's looking that up, I'll give you guys some more casting details. So, next for the role of Lucilla, I believe that's how you say her name.
Yeah, I think so.
She was played by Connie Nielsen, but they had also considered Jennifer Lopez to play her. And then Commodus was played by Joaquin Phoenix, but Jude Law was considered as well.
Did you know that this movie was like Joaquin Phoenix's big breakout role?
I did not.
Yeah, he really hadn't. I mean, he did other stuff, but like he was a child actor and whatnot, but this was like a big time role for him. So it was a big deal.
Do you find how old Russell Crowe was?
Yes, he was 36 at the time.
So not too big of an age gap.
No, so Mel Gibson only would have been, 5 years older? No, that's bad math. He would have been 7 years older. If he was 43, he would have been 7 years older. So, yeah, I mean, not really that big of a difference.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so next I'll jump into some fun facts. So these were actually pretty interesting as far as just Roman history goes. So, basically, Commodus and Marcus, I don't remember how to say his last name. It starts with an A.
Aurelius?
Yes, Aurelius. Yeah. They are actually real people from Roman history. Maximus is not. Originally, Maximus' character was named Narcissus in the script, who actually was a real person who killed Commodus, but they decided to make up the character Maximus instead of going with that one.
Okay. Now, did you look into the history about Narcissus at all?
I didn't any more than that.
Okay. I was just curious if Maximus's character was based at all off of him.
I don't know that for sure.
Okay, cool.
But going off of that, so Marcus was actually not murdered in real life by Commodus, like in Roman history. He actually died from an epidemic. So the storyline that we see in there where he's murdered by his own son and all that kind of stuff was just made up to enhance the story. And then Commodus actually was not killed in like a gladiator battle like he was when Maximus was fighting against him. Narcissus did kill him, but not in that way. I'm not sure how he killed him though.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, my thoughts are not gathered right now.
That's okay.
Okay. So another thing was that in real ancient Rome, gladiators would actually like advertise and endorse products in the arena. And this was part of the original script, but they ended up taking it out because it seemed very fake. Like not something that you would think would actually happen.
I didn't know that. I did a presentation on gladiators in high school, but I didn't know that they would endorse stuff in the ring. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Next, they actually built a smaller version of the Colosseum on the island of Malta. It was just like 1/3 of the size of the actual Colosseum, which if you have been there or haven't been there, it's like the real Colosseum is giant. But
you've seen the real one, right?
Yes, I have.
Can you tell us about it?
Well, it was amazing. It's like unbelievable how big it is, but I got to go inside too, and most of it, obviously, since it's so old, is like not anywhere near the same as what it would have been back when it was actually used. But the bottom of it, so like, I'm trying to think of how to describe it. So obviously, I think everybody knows it's like in the shape of a circle, and so people would be sitting in the stands, kind of like an amphitheater, but then in the middle, there was this floor where the gladiators would, or the animals would fight and battle and stuff. And underneath the floor is where they would keep the prisoners and the animals and stuff. And so the floor that the people would actually fight on is completely gone. So you can kind of see down into like the cells or whatever, like kind of like where they would keep the animals and gladiators who would be preparing for battle and that kind of thing. So it was really cool. I remember being very tired when we went and saw it because we were exploring everywhere in Italy, but it was a really cool experience and I'd love to go back.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I guess when I say you've seen it, I'm referring to the Roman Colosseum because there are loads of Colosseums
Right, yeah.
still up that are preserved well and everything. But yeah, the Roman Colosseum in Italy is the one that you've seen.
Yes. Okay. Oliver Reed, he plays Proximo. He actually passed away while they were filming. So a CGI, they basically made him in some scenes like CGI just to be able to finish up the film because he wasn't able to completely finish it.
Yeah, so what they did with that, I had that in my production details too. They had a body double, somebody who looked similar in height, weight, whatnot, to his physical appearance. They had him on set and they would record him doing the lines, acting them out so that they had a body reference. But what they did for his face, they did a 3D map of Oliver Reed's actual face. They put that on the body double's face. So they didn't CG it. I mean, they used computer generated images, but it's a different process when you get into visual effects. Like they did not completely make a 3D model of his face, but they did like a 3D map and like kind of projected it onto that actor's face. It's incredible because when you consider that this movie was released in 2000, filming was going on in 2007 to 2000, or not 2007, sorry, 1997 to 99 was kind of the production timeline. It's really incredible because it's flawless. When I go back and watch the movie, I would have had no idea that Oliver Reed passed away, that they had to use CGI to put him into the rest of the movie. But he's in there, or the CGI 3D map of his face is on a body double, and it's flawless. It's very impressive.
Yeah, I will say I didn't learn that until after I had seen the movie, and I would have never guessed.
Yeah. Actually, interesting fact, Oliver Reed and Russell Crowe did not get along at all during the, while they were filming the movie. They had never worked together before, and Russell Crowe did not like Oliver Reed in the slightest. I guess he was a pretty heavy drinker, and that was really off-putting to Russell Crowe, especially being on set, like a little bit unprofessional and whatnot. But interestingly enough, Russell Crowe has publicly said that after the movie, he will not speak badly about Oliver Reed because he's had dreams where Oliver has visited him in his dreams and said, "Please speak kindly of me," and whatnot. So he stood by that. He said, he's visited me in my dreams and asked me to speak well of him, so I'm not going to say anything bad.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So a couple more. One thing is that they actually used real tigers in the battle with Tigris in the Colosseum. There was a total of 5 tigers that they used, and they told the actors to stay at least 15 feet away from the tigers at all times. But a vet with tranquilizer darts was off screen just in case. But they actually originally wanted to use a rhino instead of tigers.
Oh, wow.
But they decided it would be a lot more difficult practically. And then also, obviously, they had to add in effects and things for the tigers attacking and things. So they thought that would be kind of hard too.
Yeah.
And then last one, Russell Crowe. Sorry, were you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say that Russell Crowe was almost injured on the set of the film because of the tigers.
Yes, I didn't have that written down. But
yeah, so during the filming of the scene with the tigers, he was like, I don't know how true it is. I've not seen the scenes, but the report was that he was inches away from being clawed by one of them. And you can actually see it on the film when he kind of like turns and looks at his arm. That was captured in camera. That was real, him reacting to a tiger basically being inches away from ripping his arm off. So...
yeah, it's scary.
Yeah.
So last one, Russell Crowe actually got several injuries from this film. He got pretty beat up, honestly. So one of them was there's a scar on his face that you can see in the opening battle scene. And that was real. He got that because the horse that he was riding on ran him into several tree branches.
Oh, no.
And then he also lost all feeling in his right index finger for 2 years after filming from sword fighting. And then he also ruptured his Achilles tendon,
Oh, gosh.
cracked a bone in his foot, broke a hip bone, and ripped several bicep tendons out of socket.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I had no idea he got that beat up.
Very.
Although he has said in many times in like more recent interviews where he talks about his body and stuff, just because like I wouldn't say that he's gone downhill. I mean, he's almost in his 60s now, but I think especially the internet where people don't care what they say have kind of given him a hard time. And he attributes a lot of his struggle to be physically fit and whatnot to Gladiator. Just he has so much, so many injuries, I guess, from it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, that's all I had for fun facts.
okay, cool. Well, I have production details, so I will just walk right through them. So originally, the idea for the script came from a man called David Franzoni. Hope I'm saying that right. So he's the one that produced the script originally, but prior to that, he had created a script for Steven Spielberg for the movie Amistad. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. But Spielberg liked the script so much for that movie that he on the spot gave Franzoni a 3-picture deal to write, just a few more scripts. So Franzoni, when he was thinking about what he might do next, he started recalling a trip that he took in 1972 across Eastern Europe where he saw all these gladiator arenas because he was going from country to country, and pretty much in every country there are these really well-preserved arenas that are just massive. And he thought to himself, that must have been an insane time in history. So he pitched the idea to Spielberg about a gladiator who he kind of pitched like the revenge story and whatnot. And Spielberg loved it, gave him the green light immediately. So after getting the green light from Spielberg, they approached Ridley Scott to direct the film. And he really liked it. He was very interested immediately, but he didn't like Franzoni's dialogue, especially for Maximus. He just didn't really think that he wrote the parts well. So they brought on a writer by the name of John Logan, who rewrote a lot of the script and pretty much all the dialogue. He rewrote almost the entirety of the first act, as well as he made the addition of having Maximus's wife and son killed off, citing that it would provide better character motivation and help the audience sympathize with Maximus even more. And on that note, as far as not being happy with the dialogue goes, when Russell Crowe was brought on to the movie, there were only about 35 pages to the script, so it was very bare bones. But they were already filming and whatnot, kind of similar to Iron Man. We talked about that in episode 1, where the script was largely unfinished and they were kind of figuring things out on the fly. But Russell Crowe was very unhappy with his dialogue, so much so that he went to the writers and told them, quote, "My lines are garbage, but I'm the greatest actor in the world and I can make even garbage sound good." So, there were definitely problems, but they brought Logan on, they rewrote a lot of it, and I think it turned out pretty well. As far as dialogue goes, I think there's a lot of memorable quotes that especially Russell Crowe's character has in the movie Maximus.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other additions that Ridley Scott wanted made to the movie was to have a more sympathetic character, or not sympathetic, sensitive character in Maximus. They wanted him to be more relatable, more, they kind of show him like he wants to get back to his farm, wants to be with his wife, wants to be with his son. He really is not interested in the idea of being the next emperor, and you can tell that he cares about all his men, stuff like that. They really wanted him to be a sensitive guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that all got added. And then as far as filming goes, principal photography began in January 1999, and they shot in 3 different locations from January to May of 99. So that opening battle scene in the movie, they're fighting for Germania. That's where it takes place. But that was actually filmed in Bourne Woods, England, which is a forest in England. While they were filming there for the opening act, Ridley Scott learned that the Forestry Commission was planning to remove a section of the forest. So, upon learning this, Scott approached the commission and talked to them for a while and eventually ended up convincing them to let them burn and destroy part of the forest for real so that it looked like, a real war zone and whatnot. And they didn't have to CGI any of that. It really made a big difference in Ridley Scott's opinion to be able to capture all that in camera. Since those parts of the forest were being slated to be removed anyways, why not? And
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. So that was all filmed in England, and then all the desert scenes in the movie, when like Russell Crowe gets picked up by the slaves and they're practicing in the different gladiator arenas, that's all filmed in Morocco. And then the Colosseum shots, those were all filmed in Malta, which is an island south of Italy. So for the Colosseum, it was a 1/3 scale Roman Colosseum. It was built to a height of about 52 feet. So obviously it looks way bigger than that in the movie, and that's because the remaining 2/3 were all added in digitally. They didn't try to do any like in-camera optical illusions like they did in Elf and stuff like that, like forced perspective. They just made only part of the Colosseum and then just basically built on top of it digitally. But what they did build, that took several months, and it cost right around $1 million. And as far as production details go, that's all I've got.
One thing going off of the adding some of the Colosseum in post-production and everything, one thing that I read was that they ended up having like 400 some like cardboard cutouts of people that they put like in the Colosseum so they didn't have to hire quite as many actors and actresses to be background characters.
Yeah, one thing I did see on that too is that they hired about 2,000 extras to come in and be like the people in the Colosseum. But they filmed multiple different takes of them like acting in different ways so that they could basically mirror and replicate, like fill in the Colosseum digitally to be like 35,000 people instead of 2,000 people. So they just had them filming like different actions and whatnot so that it didn't look like the same thing over and over and over again. Yeah. But anyways, that's all I've got for production details. So I think we have to rate it now. Now, that being said, you had never seen this movie prior to this episode, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So this is the first time you've ever watched the movie. What would you give it on a scale of 1 to 100?
It's hard to tell because honestly, like this genre of movie is not necessarily something I would just pick to watch on my own. Now, not to say that I didn't like it because I actually ended up liking it a lot more than I thought I would. But it was just very interesting because I don't know that I've really seen many movies that are like this. So
in what regard?
Just like ancient Rome and like lots of like fighting and war and I don't know how to explain it.
Kind of like a historical epic.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Those around this time period, like the early 2000s, those movies were really popular. Troy is another really popular one. That's Brad Pitt. And obviously, as the name infers, it's
about the Battle of Troy.
Yes, exactly. And they've kind of fallen by the wayside. They're not as common as they used to be. The only thing that's super relevant today is Pirates of the Caribbean, but that's all. Pirates were real. Pirates of the Caribbean were real, and Blackbeard and all that stuff, but this is obviously fictional. But
right, yeah. So all that to say, it's hard to give it a rating because of that, because I don't really have any other movie that I've seen to like compare it to.
Well, you don't have to.
Just based on if I liked it or not.
Right.
I did really enjoy it. Like I said, a lot more than I thought I would. So I'd say I'd give it a 90.
Really?
Yeah.
That seems a little low.
See, I knew you would say that. And I think really the only reason I don't know if I'd go higher is just because, like I said, it's not something that like I would pick to watch, I guess. It's not like the genre that I love.
Well, that's fair. But let me say this. I don't like musicals, but there are musicals that I like because you got me to watch them with you, and I would rate them based off of the movie, not off the genre. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know how to explain it better than I did, but
No, I mean, I get what you're saying.
I'm sticking with my guns.
Okay, that's fair. You don't have to change it. I'm just saying that you should rate the movie based off the movie, the story.
I'm okay. Let me try to rephrase this then. So, I'm not basing it off just because I don't love the genre. I just like I don't know how to explain it better. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's fair. So you gave it a 90. If I was going to give it a rating, I'd probably say 94. I'm going to stick with 94. I really love this movie. I love, I don't know. There's a lot to like about it. I think that one thing that I really appreciated about what they tried to do with Maximus was when they were in the early stages of the script, kind of rewriting it and adjusting it, making Maximus more sensitive and whatnot. One of the writers said, I don't want to watch a movie about some guy who's just trying to kill another guy. Obviously, like, I'm sure that even in the original script, by him saying that, that's a gross oversimplification of what was actually going on in the story. But bare bones, I think it paints the picture that that what he's trying to say is that there should be good character motivation. There should be a through line. There should be heart. There should be something that compels you to be invested in the story more than just character A is trying to kill character B. So for me, what I really like about it is that the whole opening sequence you see that Maximus doesn't really want to be there, but he is there. He's super loyal. He loves Marcus Aurelius, the Caesar, like a father. And he's super loyal. He's a good soldier. He looks out for his men, and he battles strong. And from there, you have Commodus, which is this like stark contrast, a really good foil to Maximus, who is just, in my opinion, one of the best depictions on screen of just straight up evil. I mean, the guy is scummy. He's, I think Joaquin Phoenix does a really, really great job of playing a character that you should not have any sort of empathy for, a character that should be disgusting to you. I mean, he has it hot for his sister and throughout the whole movie, which obviously
was normal at the time.
At the time, it was normal because,
even still,
gross, not okay, wrong. But at the time, royals only married and were with royals and whatnot. But anyways, you shouldn't be liking him whatsoever. Even his own father in the beginning of the movie calls him corrupt and that he wouldn't give the throne to him because of that. I really like this movie because I think the characters jump off the screen and they're easy. I feel like it's easy to get invested into these character stories and just run with it. I don't feel like there's any pacing issues throughout the whole movie. I don't feel like there's a lot that I don't like about it. There's some epic fight scenes. One of the coolest things I remember when I saw this for the first time when I was younger, which I don't know how young I was. Maybe shouldn't have been watching it at the time, but older brothers were, and I snuck downstairs, so sorry. But anyways, one of the coolest things ever was just watching those tigers in the Coliseum and everything, and now watching it back as an adult, really awesome storytelling just because it's historically accurate. You kind of like you said, you don't see a lot of stuff like this anymore, because it is embedded in history. Commodus was a real person. Marcus Aurelius was a real person. And these stories, I don't know. It's just really well done. I like it.
I agree. It is really good. And I've been trying to think of reasons why I gave it a 90.
Yeah.
So, and of course I'm going to lose them as I'm thinking of them. One thing was, I have kind of a weak stomach. So the gore was a little much. I mean, it wasn't like in your face, but just in the arena, I specifically remember a chick getting chopped in half by whatever it is off the wheel of the chariot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, just that kind of stuff. And then also, I really struggled. Like, I understand that it helped enhance the storyline as far as, like, Maximus having more motivation for revenge and stuff. But I really struggled with his wife and son both getting killed. And,
right. And you should.
Yeah.
You should. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
His wife and son, I think his son might have like 1 or 2 lines of dialogue. His wife has no dialogue in the entire movie. And I think it's really cool because on one hand, like what that does is it helps the audience not get too invested in these characters.
I was invested.
Well, but what I mean is that like you don't have these dynamic relationships that have taken shape where you really, really love this character. I mean, if I were to ask you, what do you love about Maximus's wife? You would have nothing to say, right?
She's pretty.
Okay. But aside from she's pretty.
Yes, I know.
Exactly. You have nothing to say because she had nothing to do. So what's really brilliant about that is that the audience knows that these characters are important and there's an innocence that is kind of projected onto them. Obviously, in the case of them being killed, like it was unjust, it was wrong, it was innocent blood being shed. But outside of even that, because there was no time spent with these characters, they didn't really do anything on screen. There's an innocence in their actions. You don't have, maybe the son saying something offhandedly to the mom where you're kind of like, oh, he shouldn't have said that or anything like that. Like, despite whether it's like it's good action, bad action, or whatever takes place, if you have the characters doing something more, it gets the audience more invested. So on that side of it, it's brilliant to have them have a very minimal role and have them really only be shown in a way that's like them living life, the son playing out in the field, the wife lovingly watching on, because it allows you to just enjoy them.
I think it just sucks because like Maximus was so close but so far from being able to save them, and so like because he was on his way there and they got killed, but I would have loved to see him crack some skulls and like rescue
them. Well, I mean that would have been great too.
Because like he would still have motivation for revenge, in my opinion, because like he like Oh, what's his name? Commodus sent people to kill his family. So,
Okay. So
but I don't know.
This then becomes a question of morality and ethics and whatnot, if you're going to say that, because if he's able to rescue his wife and his son and he saves their life, what's to stop him from just saying, I'm done with this and living a happy life on his farm and protecting them there? Why should he go on and go kill Commodus?
Because
no, there is no because.
There is.
No. I will fight on this because I don't believe that there's any reason for him to continue going after them. It's like, oh, you threatened my family, so now I'm going to come kill you. Why?
Well, I guess I don't feel like. Okay, can I just say what I was going to say?
Yes, go ahead.
The reason I was going to say a minute ago is just like because Marcus Aurelius told him before he died, like he was entrusting Rome to him, the good of Rome, and like he knew through Maximus' words that like Maximus had the interest of Rome in mind, like that was his priority. And so I don't feel like Maximus would have, if he had been able to save his wife and son, I don't think he would have just stayed with them and just lived the rest of his life, and just let Rome go to
You don't
crap,
think so?
I don't think so.
I do.
I feel like that would.
I do, because at the beginning of the movie, when Marcus Aurelius offered him the throne, Maximus said no. He didn't want it. He said no. And Marcus said, well, I hope you think about it and have an answer for me by sundown. He didn't want to do it. He wanted to go home. He wanted to farm. He wanted to be with his family.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I think that, you could make an argument for him going and trying to take Commodus off the throne because he usurped the throne. He stole it unjustly. And, you know, he could have gone into the city and kind of tried to make people let them know that Marcus's dying wish was for, or I guess at the time it wasn't a dying wish, but his final wishes were for Maximus to take the throne and not Commodus, and see how that plays out. But then it just becomes like a political debate, you know. And you could say that, like, oh, maybe Commodus tries to have him killed again, and then a fight ensues from there. But it's not as interesting, you know.
Yeah. All right.
I'll
give you that.
I'm just saying, I think that the tragedy of him losing his wife and his son gives him the motivation to basically, I mean, he says I think it's when he's training, maybe it's after his first fight in Rome. But at one point in the movie, he says, I only have one more life to take. And he's referring to Commodus. And he, like, when he's being trained as Gladiator, he refuses to fight. He's not interested. He doesn't want to do it. And even when he has his first fight, he throws one of his weapons into the spectators arena, which, by the way, I was reading into that did happen in Roman history with a gladiator. So they kind of took that and put it into the movie. But anyways, I think that you see this duality of he has nothing left to live for. You know, he was this close to dying. And for him, there's kind of this through line of being reunited with them in the afterlife. Even in the first few minutes of the film, you get hints of that. Mm-hmm. And so death would almost be better for him than to continue being alive. But since he was saved by the slave owner and they, you know, stopped the infection in his arm and everything, and he decides to go along with it, he's going to save the people of Rome from Commodus, a dictator. But after he does that, he's done. And I think that everything that they chose to do, the way it played out on screen, I think it all wraps up really beautifully. I think that there aren't any things that are left unfinished or unsettled, you know, that like I wasn't happy with. I think it all comes together in a really, really great way. Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. Well, I think it's time we introduce our very special guest. Now, we have never had a guest on our show before, so this is a really big deal. We're really excited about it. So without further ado, it's my honor to introduce my big brother, my oldest brother, Josh.
Hey, everybody.
So thank you for joining us this morning, Josh.
Yeah, you bet.
Now, here's a good question for you. Have you ever seen Gladiator?
That's affirmative. Multiple times.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. I know it's one of your favorite movies. So earlier in the podcast, Em and I rated Gladiator on a scale of 1 to 100. I scored it at a 94.
Ooh.
And I scored it at a 90, but I'm wondering if you'll change my mind.
Okay.
So how would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 100?
Just in general?
Yeah.
Like,
just like Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, Rotten Tomatoes? Okay.
But you're the judge.
Right.
I'm the judge. I'm definitely in the 90s with you. I'd probably give it a 95.
See, after I said 94, I was kind of thinking, I don't know, I could almost go 95, 96.
Yeah. I like, good flat numbers. 5s, 10s, 0s. I'll go 95.
Okay. All right, good. So why would you give it a 95? What about it do you like? Why isn't it higher? Anything that you want to talk about?
Well, on the negative side, why isn't it higher? I'll start there. I think obviously this movie was released in 2000. So when you watch it in 2023, visually there are some things that are slowly falling behind the time, so to speak. But the story itself, the reason why I'd give it a 95, I truly do think it's timeless. Like I could watch this 23 years from now.
Yeah.
Almost, half a century after it was originally released and still enjoy it just as much as the first time, just as much as the last time I watch it and the next time I'll watch it.
Yeah.
I think the storytelling is very captivating and engaging. And honestly, like at the turn of the century, I was only 9 going on 10 when this came out. I obviously didn't watch it at that point, but
right.
It's a swords and sandals movie. It's not modern, especially. I know you guys have covered it on the podcast recently, like the Marvel, the Pirates movies, the Hunger Games movies. Like, visually, those movies were way further ahead of this one because of the time. But it's also not the story. This was supposed to be set way, way, way back in history, and they do a killer job selling you on that and putting you in that environment, even though it came out in 2000.
Yeah. Awesome. So you said that you feel like the story is timeless, that that's why you like it so much. That's why you give it a high rating. So what about the story is compelling to you? Why does it stand out as a timeless movie?
So for me, I think, broadly speaking, this is like my interpretation of the story they're trying to tell. And it's a little ironic because the movie is named Gladiator.
Right.
And much of the movie is based around the Roman Empire. And you have politics with senators and the transition of power between Marcus Aurelius, who's the emperor at the time, to eventually his son Commodus, even though that wasn't his intention.
Right.
He wanted it to go to his general Maximus. And for me, I think the movie isn't about any of that. I think the movie is really about Maximus in the sense of a character, but that character's purpose and meaning and everything else around him is what it means to be a man.
Okay.
And I say that because from the very start of if you were to ask me what's my favorite part of the movie, honestly, most of it is probably all contained in the first 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
And the opening scene for the Battle of Germania, I think the writers are very intentional. Before they scroll a few facts, it's not totally based on a true story, obviously, but they scroll some information for you to read before visually they get into the movie. And they start with this battle because Maximus's role is he's a general of the Felix legions under, the emperor, Marcus Aurelius. So he's kind of the guy on the battlefield. He's a warrior. But you instantly learn that the reason he's in that position isn't because he's the biggest. You learn that later with the slaves. He's not the biggest guy. He's not necessarily the strongest physically, what you would maybe paint as your ideal man. Yeah. But what he is loyal to himself, loyal to an idea. And his idea is more about the principle of the man, which is perfectly in line with the emperor, Marcus Aurelius. So it's not just stopping at this idea of Rome, which is a theme in a sentence they say throughout the movie. Right. It's what does it mean to be a man? What should we aspire to? Which is in direct contrast to what the emperor Marcus says about his son Commodus. He's not a moral man. That's the quote. He's not a moral man. Yeah. Which is and Maximus doesn't even want it. Right. Yeah. Kind of jumping around, but the role of taking over Emperor of Rome, he doesn't want that. And he says that's exactly why it has to be you, because he's not going to be corrupted by the politics. Yeah. So specifically, back to wrap this up, the Battle of Germania. Mm-hmm. He has another, I don't know his role, it's not said, but he's one of the higher ranking positions in the military who tells him, hey, push the catapults back. They're too close with the cavalry. And he says quietly, but to him, they're fine. Maximus, that is. He says they're fine.
I think, was that Quintus that said that to him?
Yes. Yeah. Quintus, you're right. So this is right before they're getting ready to go into battle. But if you watch closely, and you probably need to watch it a few times to really capture onto this idea that it's about what is an ideal man, that, what they should be. Right. And he says a couple lines, one of them being what we do in life echoes in eternity. Yep. He says that as part of his pre-speech or speech pre-battle. Right. Yeah. And you can tell that the way he carries himself, he believes that to his core. Life is very short and he wants to live it well. Right. To quote a certain song by a certain band. Yes. And he commands respect because when he says the catapults are fine, what you see a few scenes later is he's the one leading the charge. Yeah. So he's actually putting his life in the same amount of danger as the men he's commanding. Right. When they get on horse and they run to flank the opposition. I think there's so much to unpack in that opening scene where they're very quickly trying to tell you, hey, Maximus doesn't get his respect out of fear or some of the way Commodus tries to run. He's trying to force people to love him, respect him. He says that a lot throughout the movie. Right. Maximus isn't about any of that. He's all about ideal principles of character, integrity, and obviously he does love, right? Yeah. But he, through his own actions first, just commands people follow him without even saying a word. He just does it.
Well, and I think you see that play out a little bit even further in the movie too, when he becomes a slave and he's refusing to basically practice to be a gladiator. Yes. He's not fighting at all. And those guys are kind of like, what gives? But Proximo is just like, hey, give it time. He'll come around, whatever. But everybody in that, everybody that Proximo owns, that's a gladiator. They all like fight for him. They love him. They respect him. Like in a few short scenes following that, where beforehand he was just like totally complacent and nobody knew what was up. But even without trying, people follow him.
Well, I'm super glad you brought that up because I was going to jump to that next, just to kind of connect some broader dots of the movie.
Yeah.
When they're doing the training practice after he's captured as a slave and he throws that sword down.
Yeah.
Well, they eventually have to go into the next gladiator battle.
Right.
And Maximus is in that. And the rest of those guys who have been with Proxima, like you said, they don't know, he's removed his tattoo of something that signifies he was
a part of the Roman
army.
Yeah.
So he's not telling anybody, again, back to how he just commands by his actions. He's not telling anybody he's going to be the best guy on the battlefield.
Right.
But they don't know when they enter that arena, they don't know what he's going to get. Is he just going to stand there and just take a stabbing?
Right.
Well, pretty quickly, again, I'm going to fight and I'm going to lead and I'm just going to tell you what we're going to do.
Yep.
Because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
And I'm sure it's not really portrayed in the movie that I recall, but if I were the other guys, the other slaves, even if you've been a hardened fighter and this is your life, you're still afraid every single time because, this might be my last battle.
Yeah.
They didn't know what they were going to get, but what they got was a guy who can lead them not only to victory, but in a broader sense, bring this like team of slaves together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And defeat things that they shouldn't actually be winning, like later the Battle of Carthage.
Right. Well, and one of the things that, like, touching on what you said, he commands respect, but he's a good leader. Like, it's the right thing to do. He looks out for the people that are around him. Very small detail, almost forgettable when watching the movie. But before the very first gladiator fight, when it shows everybody kind of standing like in the gate, I guess, like when the gate is closed before it opens and they go out, Maximus looks in front of him and there's a guy that's just like shaking with fear. And it pans down and you can see that like he's peeing himself. He's so scared because he knows he's probably going to go die. And I think today the temptation would be to like make a joke out of it because that's the only way that filmmakers do movies anymore, is to just make comedy 24/7, even in a serious movie. But Maximus doesn't judge him, doesn't make like an offhanded comment or anything. He almost looks, I don't know, like sad that he's going into another battle that, another man is having to endure this pain, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's picked up easily by the audience in terms of Maximus's response to that guy having kind of a meltdown, which would be a natural response.
Right.
And again, to go back, I don't know his name, but it's obvious he's the big guy, the tall guy. He's the one that Maximus throws the wooden sword at when they're training. When they have that first battle under Proximos, they're chained together in pairs of two.
Yes.
If you notice, again, is he the archetype male that we should follow because he's the biggest, he's the strongest? Right. He gets that guy killed pretty quickly and then just chops
his hand off
to get free of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What does Maximus do? His real name is Damon.
Yeah.
Hunsu, I'm probably butchering that.
Yeah. But I don't remember his character's name in the movie.
That would have been one of his early movies. So he's been in a ton of movies.
Yes.
Great actor.
Yes.
Well, he's paired with Maximus. I think his name is Jubba.
It starts with a J.
It starts with a J.
Remember.
Yeah.
But they're chained together and he doesn't know him from anybody, right?
Yep.
We see him have a brief conversation with him while he's laying flat after he had been picked up to join the slaves. But he doesn't treat him like that at all. He's like, this guy is just as important as I am. We have to fight together. And they do. And they end up being successful and survive because of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's leadership.
Yeah. 100%. And you kind of see throughout the movie that he becomes very loyal to Maximus. Like they didn't, I mean, they had interaction together throughout the movie, but he's kind of similar to Cicero, how Cicero is like a servant aide to Maximus. He's right there with him, helping him, super loyal, not questioning anything about him. He's just, Maximus's character is that kind of guy that he's genuine and people see that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, Em, do you have a question you want to ask Josh?
Yeah, so I'm sure you probably touched on it some, but we were going to ask you if you have any favorite specific scenes or parts of the movie that stand out to you.
Yeah, sorry for putting the cart in front of the horse there.
No, you're good.
Fine.
It's perfect.
That opening scene and setting the stage is definitely one of my favorites. The other one is, man, there's so many. Obviously, the big moment when Commodus comes down to meet him.
Yeah.
And it's not really a speech, but he goes into pretty specific, quick detail about who he is after he first tells him, my name is Gladiator, and turns his back, which, again, prior to that, they said, you'll bow, raise your weapons.
Yeah, when the
emperor.
Centurions came out, they told him, don't turn your back to the emperor, blah, blah, blah,
they
whatever.
gave those pieces of instructions. And if you watch closely, the other guys, the slaves, they raised their weapons.
Yep.
They do this. Maximus is just standing there.
Yep.
Right.
Because just like Commodus's father, Marcus, he does not respect him.
Right.
And it's not anything personal. I think it's juxtaposed back to my broad interpretation of the movie is Maximus knows, like Marcus knew, who his son Commodus was as a man of no moral character. And he's just, quote, in it for all the wrong reasons.
Right.
Mhm.
And he's forcing himself upon everybody else. So that interchange of him revealing who he is when Commodus thought he surely was dead.
Yeah.
Like that is a pretty goosebumpy moment for me. It's obviously one of the more quotable lines from the movie.
Yeah.
But that's definitely a favorite scene. And to tag onto that, jumping to kind of the end.
Yep.
When Maximus does finally die.
Yes.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
He, it's very clear cap on the movie of he completed what he was supposed to, even though after he was sentenced to death and his wife and son were murdered, he really didn't know what to live for, which is kind of what got him to be a slave. He just kind of was laying there. Maybe he buried them in the grief. He just lay there. Maybe he just gave up. We don't know.
Yeah.
But he's lying on the Colosseum sand.
Mm-hmm.
But power has been restored to the Senate, which is what Marcus wanted Maximus to do, and bypassing Commodus because that's not what he wanted.
Right.
I think it's a nice completion to the actual arc of Maximus's journey, even though he really didn't want to be a part of it, and he may not have known exactly what it all entailed.
Yep.
But he actually, in a roundabout way, fulfilled what Marcus wanted him to do, even though he never was actually emperor of the Roman Empire.
Yeah,
Right.
100%. And shortly after that, a really nice bow to wrap up the movie. Again, I cannot remember his name, but it's Jabba or
I think it's Jabba, something like that. But
yeah. So he has the little figurines, statues, or whatever that are of Marcus's wife and son, and he buries them, and he says, "I'll join you soon, but not yet." Just again, even after death, that he's still loyal to him, that he loves him. There's a genuine friendship there. I thought that was really cool.
I just looked it up. His name is Juba.
Oh, Juba.
Juba. Okay, we were very close. Yeah.
Juba.
Okay, sweet. Well, we do have a little bit of trivia prepared for you. Nothing. Only have like 5 questions, I think.
Okay.
They're pretty straightforward, pretty easy, but just to see. Because would you say that this is your favorite movie?
It's a great question. I think I would say if I could only watch one movie, like a desert island type thing, this would be the one I'd pick.
Okay.
I won't say that it's my favorite movie just because there are obviously so many different genres and and as the years pass, new movies that come out that are captivating. But if I could only pick one, which I guess is a way of saying it's my favorite movie, but this would be the one I'd watch. It's a solid 2.5 hours. It's a epic movie in terms of the scope of it. And I truly do think it's timeless. I watch it, Lord willing, if I'm 80.
Yeah.
I'd watch it then and I'd still be just as entertained as I was, now.
Okay. Awesome. Well, if this is your desert island movie, then hopefully you know it well.
Yeah.
And we've just got a handful of questions to run through with you. So first one is a gimme. So what is Maximus's full name?
His name is Maximus Decimus Meridius.
Correct. All right. M?
Okay, next one is, what did Marcus give Proximo when he was set free?
He gave him it was a sword. Was it wooden?
Yes.
Okay, but it was engraved. You see this when Maximus kind of comes into Proximo's quarters and they're talking after a couple of battles, and Proximo knows like, okay, Maximus is legit. And you can see Marcus Aurelius's name along with some other maybe Roman numerals. I'm not sure, but yeah, he gives him a sword because Proximo tells the audience and Maximus that he was at one point the best gladiator.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he won his freedom?
Yes. Yep. His freedom was granted to him by Marcus Aurelius.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a great question.
Okay. Next question, maybe an even better question. What are Proximo's last words?
Oof. This one.
I'll give you a hint. I mean, technically it's 3 words, but one of the words is and. So.
Oh, okay. This might be one of my favorite lines too. Does he say strength and honor?
No.
Oh, okay. What's he say? I can't remember.
He says shadows and dust.
Shadows and dust.
Because he says that to Maximus throughout the movie, just about that things are just, once we're gone, it's just shadows and dust.
That's right. That's right. He's trying to hype him up more or less for continuing to battle and make his way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
Okay. M?
All right. What is the name of Maximus' servant?
Oh, man. I'm going to start.
I even said it earlier.
You did say it earlier.
This is Quintus?
No.
He's the bad guy that he follows
Right.
Commodus.
Yes.
This guy does he have the intense scarring on his face?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What is his name? You're going to have to help me out again.
Cicero.
You did say that a couple minutes ago.
Yes. Okay. And final question. This is another gimme, but it's a good one. What does Maximus do before every battle?
Oh, yeah. So, again, at the very beginning, Battle of Germania, you see him do this, and it doesn't really strike you at that point, but he does it. To me, it struck me again when he is a slave and he's about to go out for the first time since that point.
Right.
Yep.
He either bends down, reaches down if he's already sitting down, and he'll grab the dust or the dirt.
Yep.
Kind of grab a clump of it, put it in his hands, rub it together before every single battle.
Yep. You are correct. So that's all the trivia that we have for you. And I think that's all I've got. Do you have anything else, Em?
I don't think so.
Okay, cool. Well, Josh, is there anything else you want to touch on Gladiator? Anything that sticks out to you? Anything you want to cover?
Just with me here, we've covered a lot. You guys have done a great job. I think.
Oh, thank you.
Just from a movie going experience, like their performances, Russell Crowe's, Joaquin Phoenix's, obviously mainly, they're so compelling because Joaquin was very young when this came out.
Yeah,
he
was 25.
Yeah, I actually read that he was so nervous that Russell Crowe and somebody else had to get him a little bit inebriated to calm him down.
Yeah,
I did see that.
It was Marcus Aurelius's actor.
Okay, yeah, but Joaquin had said that the sets were so huge.
Yeah.
And being so young, he was just like, I don't know how I'm going to go out here and, act the way that I need to act. But throughout the movie, his role as kind of the bad guy, what a man shouldn't be, and Maximus, what a man should be, they are that to a T.
Yep.
Every comment that Commodus makes is cloaked in what he perceives to be intellectual.
Right.
And it's not that he's dumb. He's not dumb. And in the movie, you even seen him training with 5 other guys with the swords. He's capable to an extent, but his downfall is right down at the bottom of the heart. Where do you stand? What are you all about? Right. And he doesn't really have principles other than himself. And if you go through life super selfish, you're not really helping anybody. I mean, that's the exact definition of selfishness, right? So I think that is part of what aids it in being, in my opinion, a timeless movie. Their performances are compelling it's very clear if you watch it closely who this person is supposed to be in terms of the role that they're fulfilling. Yeah. The only other side note, the only thing I actually like from Commodus is, and I still do this to my wife to this day, the thumb gesture.
Oh, yeah.
So in the stadium, if you watch it, so the crowd will chant, live, live, live the first time, and he's holding it out sideways. If you've never seen it, he holds his thumb out sideways. And the emperor, who's in charge of everything and can do whatever he wants, can throw it up or can throw it down. If he throws it down, you're about to get executed.
Right.
Well, the first time, because again, Commodus is all about the people.
Right.
in terms of wanting their acceptance in a bad way. He only cares what they think. He wants to be popular for all the wrong reasons.
Right.
Whereas Maximus doesn't ask that. He just gets it implicitly because of who he is.
Right.
He throws a thumb up. So,
Yeah.
day to day, I bring that with me in life where, hey, do you want to have this for dinner? And no, not tonight.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Just for comedy. I always remember that about Commodus's character, just a little thumb gesture.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, Josh, thank you for joining us in the studio today. Really appreciate having a guest on the show. Feel like it's a big milestone for us. So we're glad that you're our first guest.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.
Of course.
So we are going to be covering Interstellar next week, so make sure you tune in for that. And thank you for tuning in today. And if you liked what you heard, make sure to give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. Congrats again to our giveaway winners winning t-shirts. And thank you guys again for just listening and supporting us and our podcast. We really are excited to grow our podcast and our audience, and we just appreciate you guys so much. So we will see you next week.
Bye.